Okay, so now we have our environment created, and we're going to add a little bit of animation here, right? But we're going to make it bounce from left to right on the perspective view over here as we have it. But we want to also give it a little bit of a stretch a little bit of a squash to give a little bit of an organic feel to it. We want to give some characteristics of something organic and soft instead of just a solid sphere. That is a concept from the principles of animation, so that applies to 3D as well. Okay, so on the to add a little bit of a stretch on it, and you'll see it at work in a moment. Let's go to add a modifier. So deformer, I'm sorry. Go on modeling, still on the modeling menu set. Let's go to form and non-linear, and over here find the squash and the little square next to it, the option box. So click on it. And always make it a practice to reset your tool. So go edit, reset. Especially if you work on a lab where other people sit to work on the same computer, you can modify some of the settings. Or if you simply maybe have changed it before and you didn't remember, that way you avoid some headaches down the road. So just click create, and you're going to see, and let's zoom in here. I'm using the middle mouse and alternate to move, and zooming in with the middle mouse wheel. Okay, so you notice how now we have a circle and we have something that looks like a little X on the top. It's also on the bottom, and now we have a squash one node over here where we can see some attributes. So what I would say is test it by moving the factor node. Okay, as you see, what it does is pretty much stretches based on the top and bottom of that line, so it stretches the geometry as far as that can go. Okay, so I'm gonna click Control Z to undo, so put it back to 0 over here on factor. And let's make a test. Let's make the sphere move with the move tool. This is the move tool over here, so I just grab that edge over here, and with the left mouse button I move it. Notice what happens. The stretch part stays behind, so I wonder if it will work or not, right? So let's stretch it. And notice what happens now. If you move it, it's still affecting the sphere, but it's not exactly doing the stretch the way we want it to. Nice, coming from the center of the object, of the geometry. So I'm going to go ahead and undo. Over here, undo again, undo until I put it back where it was. There you go. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to make sure that squash deformer stays with the sphere no matter where I go. Okay, so select first your squash deformer there, and by holding control the shift key down, left click on the sphere. Okay, and order matters, so be careful with that. Select the child first and tie it to the parent, which is what we're going to do, the parent. We're going to parent those. Okay, so select the child first, the one that's going to follow the other one, and then that one by holding shift, and then press the P key on the keyboard. Okay, and when you do that, now as you click on the sphere, everything moves together. Okay, is it still affecting it? Is working perfectly, as you can see. Okay, so Control Z or undo. So now we're ready to move our sphere. So I'm just going to move a little bit further back, and I'm going to click alternate and middle mouse button to kind of frame the other edge, because we're going to move it from here to here. Okay, so for next we're going to determine, now that we're ready to animate, we have our floor, we have our squash deformer, Now we have to determine how long will it take for the sphere to go all the way to the other side, okay? And timing is important because that way you can say how fast or how slow that sphere will move. So in this case, let's just make it an average bounce. So let's say that it bounces once in the middle and then once over here on the right side of that plane that we have. So let's say that if a second of animation is 24 frames, then we can say count that as 2, right, for 48 frames. So we could make it a kind of like a slow bounce by making it 48 frames, or a very fast bounce by making it 1 second. So, you know, just think about 1 second of animation. That goes very fast, right? Think about a metronome in music, or look at the clock and see how many times, picture in your mind how many times it will have to bounce. So let's make it 48. So I'm going to click here and press 48, and now I see all my 48 frames. Okay, and I'm going to start by setting my initial keys, and then I'm going to go halfway on 24 and kind of set it halfway where it will be. Okay, so I'm going to make one bounce, boop, and then bounces here and maybe gets off the screen. Okay, you could do it that way, you know, so that in frame 0, for example, it comes from other place, or you can start here and then kind of animate. Just remember that animation, when you stop and freeze an animation at the end of your frames, it might look like everything freezes if you leave it there for a moment. We'll see that a little bit later as we start animating the sphere. So for now, let's set our initial and end keys. Okay, so on frame 1, I'm gonna be here, make sure I'm here on frame 1. And with my sphere selected, make sure you deselect, click somewhere else, and click on your sphere. Okay, make sure that you're right there. Press S for setting a key. Okay, and as you do that, you're going to notice that red line telling you, okay, it's set, that you have your first frame. Okay, for the second one, I'm just going to move it all the way here. Okay, so I grab the red axis and then the yellow axis and move it over there. Okay, and what I'm going to do is middle mouse on 48 over here on the timeline and press S. Let me show you first what happens if by any chance I try to do that without pressing middle mouse. I'm gonna go, hold on a moment, let me show you what happens. Let's say I moved it already, right? So that's where it's gonna be. I'm gonna come here to 48 and you left click and oops, you lost what you had. So it's important that if you're setting a pose and you want to put that pose on a specific frame, that you middle mouse, okay? You click that middle button or middle wheel on your mouse, and that way you don't lose the pose that you have. Okay, so I'm going to go again and do it again, put it in the last position, and on frame 48 right here I'm going to press S. So now if I go to frame 1, it's in my initial position, and if I go to frame 48, it is there. So it is pretty much working so far. Okay, and next we're going to set another key. But right now, if we hit the play button over here, it kind of slides from one to the other, right? Point A to point V. So it's kind of traveling at a very direct line, right? A constant movement. So I'm going to stop the animation somewhere at frame 24, and I'm going to press another S. Okay, so I have 3 keys right now, one in the beginning, one in the middle, and one in frame 48, which is the end. Okay, so far we have made this translate from left to right, and I kind of set a middle key there because that's where the ball is going to bounce next. So first, so then I'm going to go here, frame 12, most likely. Let's see, 12, 13 maybe. And I'm going to move that up, okay? How far? Let's see. Let's use this as a reference. Okay, so you can use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 units, about 8 units. And on frame 13 over there, I'm going to press another key, and I'm being very, very, very linear and systematic here. I'm going to press S again, okay, and kind of halfway here again, from the middle key to the last key, I'm going to go again and move up about the same as that one was, you know, as the position that I had on the other one. Okay, if you know you want to check, just double check by clicking on them. You know, frame 13 is there, frame 34 is kind of about the same height, and then press S to update that key on 34. Okay, so the idea is that you make constant movement. If you make constant movement, there's not going to be any deceleration or loss of momentum, right? So if this was a bouncing ball where the ball, the sphere loses the speed and the acceleration that's moving it, you might want to then do the second bounce, the second, you know, this high position, to be a little bit lower. That way it looks like it's losing momentum. The curves of movement get smaller. Okay, that's another concept of animation. As the sphere loses momentum, the curves will be shorter, and they will be faster, right? The sphere will start bouncing in smaller steps and much lower in relation to the floor. Okay, so let's see what we have done so far. So let's click play. So there's our initial key, right? We have our initial key over here, then it goes up, and that's the upside of the bounce that we did, and then it goes down, and then it goes up, and then it goes down again. Okay, you can continue to make it, you know, go even further on your animation. But you know, for this practice, we're just gonna leave it at 48. If you notice it just kind of, let's take a look at it. Let's examine what's happening here. I'm gonna go on the side view, and I'm gonna press the space bar to maximize it. I'm gonna middle mouse and alternate to kind of position it on the screen. Okay, and that way I have it a little bit more clear on what I want to see. Is going up, going down, going up, going down again. Okay, so it seems to be working okay so far.